Good afternoon and welcome to Rappler Talk. My name is Krish Nabel. So this year the country has gotten an up-close encounter into cybercrime. We've had the Comelec database breach, and we've also had the Bangladesh bank heist. So here to tell us a little bit about what we should expect and how we can improve our security are two IT experts. We have Francesca Monte, thank you for joining us, and Henry Aguda.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Thank you for joining us. They've also just recently wrote a book about it called Data Privacy and Cybercrime Prevention in the Philippine Digital Age. So, could you tell us a little bit about the book? What made you guys decide to write it?
So, Sasa, Francesca, and I teach at the University of the Philippines. So, we teach information security management. And we did the math. Our classes usually are 30 people strong. And if we've been teaching for a couple of years, best guess is after 10 years we would have taught about 500 people the laws relevant to data privacy. So we said to have a broader reach, might as well write a book. Then our publisher Vibal picked up the book that we worked on 2 years back and published it. So now it's a textbook. It's available in most bookstores at this point. And this is our way of pushing our advocacy to get people into data privacy and cybercrime prevention, because it's everywhere nowadays, as you mentioned earlier. Sensational
digital
cases.
age,
Yeah,
right?
it's a digital age. And a lot of people hear of the sensational cases like the Bangladesh scam and the Comelec issue, both of which are far-reaching and earth-shaking in nature. But every day there's about 1,000 hacks happening to individuals and corporations.
1,000 hacks?
1,000 hacks. The numbers vary, but I tend to gravitate towards 1,000. And if only 100 of them get to the point where they evolve to be an actual breach, you could just imagine the losses in terms of business, damages to people, etc. So that's why we're aggressively going around pushing our agenda to get more awareness in these topics. Yeah.
And it affects everyone, right? Since
Yes.
everybody connects to Facebook now, everybody connects to Twitter, everybody. So no matter where you are, you can be affected.
Oh yes, nowadays everything's digital. And the nice thing about the book is, so I started writing the manuscript 2 years back. Then I was joined by a colleague of mine who is a lawyer who practices in the Philippines, but now is taking his doctorate in Yale. So he's attorney Bocio Angco. And he contributed, so he's got the international perspective. Then along the way, we met up with Sasa. And Sasa, as you notice, is pure millennial. So she brings in the new age perspective of what
You
it
can't
is.
be that old yourself.
Well,
Come on.
but she's a true millennial. So I'm not a millennial native, but I try to adapt. But she has this insights on what kids are doing nowadays, what's relevant in the mainstream market, and that's why we collaborate. All three of us worked on this book and got it published, and we're now doing our rounds, telling people that, hey, there's a book that shows you where the laws are, tells you your rights as a citizen, and tells corporation out there who gather information from the public their obligations.
Obligations. So that is really exemplary. Like, it's really IT thinking, trying to scale up and reach the widest amount of people that you can.
Yeah.
So you mentioned individuals' rights.
Yeah.
Could you give us a brief rundown, I guess? Like,
Yeah.
what are things that people may not know?
Well, I think the expert there is Sasa. She's done a lot of the
Sasa.
mainstream research on the current rights, and maybe you could share.
Okay. Nowadays, people don't leave their houses without their phones.
course.
So it's actually an extension of yourself now. So most of what you do during the day is being captured by your phones. The data, the internet, what websites you browse, and where do you go to. Waze knows where you are.
Yes, sometimes it's not even. I'm actually most of the time now. It's not
Yeah.
even. It's automated, right?
Yes.
It connects to the server.
So what most people don't understand or don't realize yet is that they have their every right not to have their data processed by the controller or the processors. In this sense, these are the platforms,
Yes.
the social media platforms,
Facebook, Twitter, Google.
So it's just a matter of knowing your privacy settings and knowing what is the extent of your privacy, what are the things you need to share or not. Because most of the information or the pictures you share online contain personal information. I mean, if you post your boarding pass, you're bragging about traveling elsewhere, and you post your boarding pass. It contains a QR.
Yeah,
It's
a QR
it's
code.
code, and when you scan it, it provides information about you. It's actually there. So most people don't realize that they're exposed to this
Wow.
breach
Invasion, almost of
because you
privacy.
allowed
Yeah.
it in the first place.
by posting that
Yes.
picture. I'm curious, specifically on the boarding pass example, does that have your financial details as well? Let's say the credit card that you used to purchase the ticket?
It only contains your name, your birthday, where you're going,
Okay.
things like that.
But
you know
still,
they can trace it.
Yes.
Like they can start with. There's a famous case in the U.S. where a journalist was hacked because he had this very nice Twitter handle,
Yeah.
and some hackers traced his Twitter handle to some of his financial information. So information begets information, and once part of it is compromised, it could lead to other compromises in the past. Yeah. So that's the problem with a connected world, and you guys are in the mainstream of it, and you know that everybody right now is going into where you are, and so you could imagine if journalism is going into that direction, all the other facets of life are going into the same
Well, we're telling
cyberspace.
the story of what's happening around the world. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So.
So what is the, from an individual standpoint, what is the best way to control your privacy? Is it as simple as going through your phone and making sure that you check all the privacy settings and the app permissions, or is there a better way?
I think it's actually reading what you use. For instance, if you download an application, it contains a consent platform wherein you need to sign up. The application would notify you what kind of information from your phone are they capturing. They're capturing your photos, your contacts, your messages. So it comes from knowledge and awareness itself. That's the reason also why we campaigned for this book, because
To get the word out.
Yes, and most people don't read the terms and conditions
Yeah.
in whether they sign up in a loyalty application or in social media platforms. Like they're capturing your profile. They actually monetize what you browse, what you like.
Yeah.
These are the information that most people don't realize, and most of the topic in this book is about linkable information. It's patches of information about you, and when linked together, it actually creates a profile of you. So
Kind
other
of
people
like what
can,
Henry was saying.
yeah,
Like
and that's,
information
and
begets information.
in this age, to put it in the proper context, and when the Comelec database leak was happened,
Yeah.
it actually creates an open repository of linkable information about you.
Yeah.
So you can actually, it's prone to identity theft.
Yes.
And for instance, what the corporation can do is to change their verification methods in not
And not tell you, not notify you.
for instance, you can no longer ask for the maiden name of your mom, maiden
I see.
name of your mom,
Yeah.
or your birthday.
The
So,
standard
just the standard, because
safety
they're
nets.
publicly available information.
Yeah.
So, it's actually a challenge for corporations.
Yeah.
So how to devise
more
verification
foolproof
methods
ways.
Yeah.
to do it.
I wanted to zero in on identity theft actually,
Mm.
because that's, I think, one of the major worries that consumers have. It's a major problem, and it's a major concern in the U.S. in Europe. Here in the Philippines, most people, or it doesn't seem like it's foremost in people's minds. But I guess, should it be? Like,
It should.
how susceptible is an individual just by being on Facebook or?
There was a famous case. We got interviewed by Anthony Pangilinan. Yeah, he was victimized by identity theft.
Oh, wow.
The person who victimized them actually is in incarceration right now. But just to show you how mainstream it is, there are people that we know that are exposed to this. And these are the ones that we know of. Often we don't hear of credit card fraud. And we don't hear of subscription fraud, but there are a lot of them. And the economic impact to such is huge, aside from the fact that you're not settled in the information that you have that you share in the public. So information theft is mainstream actually right now. Identity theft is mainstream now.
How about the infrastructure to combat identity theft? Because as you both know, being IT experts, it moves so quickly, and the laws kind of, there's always a little bit of a delay. I mean, it's a fact of life. But how advanced or how evolved are the laws to combat this?
Well, the laws, there were 3 laws passed: the Data Privacy Law, the Cybercrime Prevention Act, and the creation of the DICT. So these are the 3 laws that would be the pillars for making sure that there are correct regulation and correct enforcement. And recently, the DICT Secretary, the new DICT Secretary, Attorney Salalima, has been appointed. And he is the last state actor that completes the whole ecosystem of enforcement and regulation. So I think it's not so much the type of technology or the availability of technology. It's there. Just a matter of political will now to implement what the laws have been advocating for us to do. Because the laws are really good. If I may say so, they're not perfect, but the lawmakers have done a very good job in crafting the right framework to protect us.
Is there any law in particular that you'd like to highlight? That,
Well, the Data Privacy Act, that is, I think, ahead of its time. But like most situations here in the Philippines, sometimes if enforcement is not done right, then the laws become stale. So I guess here we have a chance where the law is correct, the law is by all means robust. We just need to follow it through with good implementation.
set good precedents, I guess.
Yes, get the people to be serious about compliance. And I think the creation of the National Privacy Commission, who's been doing public hearing and we've been actively participating in that, are serious in this. And this is why we're going around telling people, once the full effect of the law is there, a lot of people will find that they're in violation of the letter of the law. And there's going to be a mad rush to comply, actually.
Do you think there's going to be some sort of economic effect of that mad rush?
Well, positive and negative. If they comply with the spirit of the law, we become favored by other countries who are more progressive in this. Like we do a lot of BPOs and call centers. I know one of the issues they have here is data privacy and information
Especially corporate,
security.
like sensitive information.
Yes. So especially hospitals, utilities, banking. If we show that we're serious about this, like most other things in the world, other people will say that, hey, that's a safe haven for our information. And from an economic effect, that pushes the needle in terms of increasing jobs, high-value jobs in the Philippines.
I think a lot of people aren't too familiar with the minutiae, I guess, the nitty-gritty details of the Data Privacy Act. Like, could you give us a really quick rundown, I guess, of what, like you mentioned, a lot of people might find themselves
In violation.
In violation.
Yeah.
They may not even know it. Like,
Yep.
what kind of violations?
Well,
I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot
yeah,
here.
no worries on that one. I guess if you're a corporation and you're collecting information from the public, you have to be sure that you set the organization right. There are organizations, a data privacy organization, in any organization that collects public information, that organization has to be created and registered with the National Privacy Commission. Not being able to do that exposes you to some awkwardness in terms of compliance.
Good word.
Also, it shows that you're not complying with the general trend in the world, where there are really specific organizations guarding against data leakages, because the new currency in the world right now is information.
Information.
Another thing to highlight is, as individuals, you can now demand that your information should be safe. Gone were the days if your information is violated, you don't know what to file. You don't
so
know what criminal
basically,
case that is.
You just scream on Facebook.
Yes, you just scream, and you just, and the more you scream, the more information gets out there. Now you can go to
Good
the
point.
National Privacy Commission, and they will enforce the law. And there's jail term. So we teach a class on information security, and we start data privacy introduction as saying, right now you can go to jail if you violate this law. And I think to me that's the important thing, obligations and rights. Maybe Sasa has some other pointers there.
One of the key punishable acts in the Data Privacy Act is negligence is punishable by jail time.
So by negligence, you mean like a firm being haphazard with their security?
Yes.
Yes.
So the organization or the corporation should be able to implement policy controls in all exit and how the information flows. So there must be data protection in all processes, enterprise-wide. And
This is from start process to
Yes.
basically end to end.
Yeah.
even improper disposal is also punishable. So if you let the papers lying down there
Or a
in
hard drive or
drives,
USB,
drives,
yeah.
you lost it. That's improper disposal or even negligence at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's also punishable.
So it really keeps firms who have your data, it
Yeah.
really keeps them in line, I guess.
Yes. But ours is not to raise panic actually, because to be practical about it, I think the National Privacy Commission and maybe the ICT as well, I can't speak for them, but I think the general trend is to help companies and corporations get into the path of compliance,
Yeah.
not
To nudge
actually
them, yeah.
to nudge
I mean,
them,
they
to
don't- they
inform
may not
them.
even know,
Yes,
right?
to educate them, and maybe I think the government can help them by providing technical assistance. I think that's the way forward. I mean, to start accosting people because of violation will not, in the first place, you won't have enough room to put them in. So the more productive approach would be to get everybody informed, maybe a year or so of informing everybody.
There's no set period at the moment, right? It's still
There's-
up in the air.
Well, for data privacy, they're still yet to come up with the IRR.
Yeah.
The IRR
The
might-
rules and regulations.
rules and regulation might come out this year. So there's still time, and that's why we want to be proactive in getting the message out before, I mean, the IRR is there and people and the authorities are already taking people to task. That would be too late. That would be chaotic. That's not the intention. The intention is to get this out there ahead of the curve and get everybody prepared to be serious about data privacy.
How would you rate the in layman's terms, I guess, the security that we have right now, or the general level of security?
Oh.
I mean, we've had 2 high-profile breaches, shall we say, missteps. But like for like a regular firm, like you mentioned that there's going to be standardized security protocols, I guess. How robust is that?
Well, BSP is very pedantic about banks complying with the security. So I think to some degree they've been going at best practices and trying to implement as best as they can. The companies that I've worked for and have been associated with are serious with information security. So I see them investing in tools and methodologies to protect them. But there's only a few of them. The general disposition is that we still have not gotten to the point where we appreciate the value of information, similar to we appreciate the value of a peso or a dollar. So it has to come to that point because information will be more valuable than currency in the future. So it's still new and maybe
Still
give it a
getting
few
there.
more years before everybody takes everything seriously. But your opinion would be?
For me, it's the agencies of the government have already started with establishing cybercrime divisions or offices. Like the PNP has a cybercrime division. Even NBI, they even established it's the Computer Emergency Response Team. It's patterned after US. So people can actually not file cases with the NBI or the PNP pursuant to a cybercrime, and they can also pursuant to a data privacy leak or data privacy breach of an individual. They can also file cases with the NPC. So the laws are in place. It's just the matter of how people or Filipinos will use this agency to address, to actually find refuge or justice when
But now they have a recourse.
Yes.
And,
Yes,
that's
they
something
do.
to cheer
They do.
about,
They do.
definitely.
They do.
Of course, I cannot let you mention banks and not bring up the
Oh.
Bank Secrecy Act. How does this tie in with all of the data privacy?
Well, Sasa actually been studying AMLA as
Yeah.
an exception to it. Maybe you could explain.
Under the Data Privacy Act, one of the exception of the law is the bank secrecy and AMLA, which means that under the data privacy, you need the consent of the data subject before the processor, the controller will process your data.
Okay.
Under the AMLA and bank secrecy, it's a different world. And
This is
so
from the
on.
account
Yeah.
holder
Yes,
itself.
yes, because when you trigger a red flag in under the AMLA law or the anti-money laundering, that's 500,000 and above. It will be processed by the BSP, and then they will trigger investigations. So it won't need the consent of the account holder anymore, because under the law, it's automatically being processed.
So if there's any possible infringement,
Yes.
it won't act as a cover, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, as a general rule, data privacy cannot be used as a shield against criminal actions as
Yes.
well. So I think our lawmakers made sure of that, and that's why it keeps to the spirit of it, which is basically guarding individuals' freedom, not being used as something to trample on some other
be,
people's freedom.
unscrupulous.
So, yeah, yeah, okay. That's right.
Let's shift a bit to the economic side of it, I guess.
Okay.
And data, as you said, data is the new currency.
Yep, yep.
You know, even in Silicon Valley, as you know, having just come back from the U.S., right, where you shift your time now.
Yep. I'm more full-time here now, so I used to be based there, but more and more I find myself in the Philippines now. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of firms there are still trying to figure out how to, I guess, for lack of a better term, monetize some of this data within moral standards. I guess.
Yeah.
Where is the country or the Philippines in this? Like, is there a robust industry of data selling now? And
Well, right now it's in the early stages, nascent, and there are statistics that says there are about 40 million people who have jobs now in the Philippines, and there's only around 2 million people with jobs in the ICT sector. Now, this is relevant
One sector,
because projections are in the next 5 years, and I hope the DICT organization will pick up on this one. In the next 5 years, 10 million jobs could be created in the big data space.
And in the
10
next
million
5 years.
In the next 5 years. Imagine if you grow your labor base to another 10 million, that pushes the needle in terms of poverty alleviation, because the more people with high paying job, the more it trickles down to society. So big data is a big business, could be a big business in the Philippines. Unfortunately, we're still in the starting stages, and where we're starting from is starting it right, where we have people who are aware of their rights and aware of their obligations.
Really the foundation.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier in our discussion, in the U.S., data analytics companies combined generate around $156 billion a year in revenue.
Just from data
Just from
selling, I guess,
Yeah,
or for
selling,
lack of
selling who
not to be
goes
crude,
to a
but
school
yeah.
of this region, who buys color red.
It's
for-
mostly for marketing purposes.
Marketing
right? That's what
purposes.
dominates it.
That's huge. And if you could imagine, we started from the call center industry to the BPO. If we become a data analytics hub,
For
here,
processing
for
that,
processing,
analyzing that,
That's
turning it into useful information
Yes.
for
that
individuals.
really improves the state of economy here in the Philippines. The services sector will really jump. So it's in the beginning stages, but the prospects are really, really huge. And I've seen a lot of companies right now going to it, and they're conflicted. If we go too much into data analytics and stuff, do we run into data privacy issues? So what we're saying
Especially
is,
because it's not so clear cut at the moment still,
not so
right?
clear-cut.
Yeah.
So understand what data privacy is. Don't let it limit your economic activity. For as long as you do it right and you follow the law, the economic activity should grow. So that's also the balance that we're trying to strike.
What needs to happen from both of your perspectives? What needs to happen for the Philippines to at least move towards being a hub for data analytics, for this explosion that you mentioned to happen?
Well, we've created the DICT. and that's the right move. We should have had it a long time ago,
It's a
but
long time
it's
and,
now
you know,
here.
okay.
The laws are there. First thing is the first 100 days, I guess, will be about sharing information, increasing awareness, and getting government and the private sector to cooperate in creating a nice infrastructure, a nice framework for information industry. So that's what's needed. Then maybe government could provide them incentives to go into that space as well. The laws are there. We just have to implement them.
Provide incentives for firms to go into IT.
Yes. We've done that in the past. We've given economic incentive,
Tax breaks.
tax breaks, pioneering industry relief, etc. So I guess that's what should be done.
For one, the corporations or the controllers must be able to craft a privacy framework first to determine what kind of personal information they're capturing from their customers or from people, and then they implement technology. The only way to what you call this to enforce or to comply with the Data Privacy Act is through technology itself. So there are many solutions, there are many tools for the corporations, controllers to use in order to comply with the law. For instance, if you have a personal information, you can mask it or you can anonymize, you can encrypt,
Use like VPNs, perhaps.
use VPN. There are many ways to actually comply. So this is not really a scary law in the first place. It's more of protecting the individuals because of privacy. So if
It's on your side.
yes,
Yep.
If-
Should be on our
It's
side.
on your side.
Yep.
if you can, I mean, we can all be protected at the same time and protect the business side of the corporations, then we
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Yes.
For the first 100 days, so the DICT has it's finally there, something to celebrate, something to toast. But we're not really sure yet what it's gonna do.
Yeah.
Do you have any concrete suggestions for Attorney Sanalima?
Well-
what would be something that would really push the needle? I guess.
I think, I cannot make any suggestions to him because I know him. In fact, when we
Is
were
he the right
writing-
man for the job?
He is the right man for the job. So when we were writing the book, I was actually bouncing off the idea to him.
Oh, okay.
At the same time, he was actually writing his own
This
book.
has your DICT heads
Well-
thoughts in them. Yeah.
I shared the first copy with him before 2 years back. And when he was writing his own book on the history of ICT in the Philippines, he was forward thinking in what needs to be done. And I think and this is not a suggestion, this is more of a hope, and I'm venturing a guess. I think first thing he's going to do is to get private and public sector to cooperate and get everybody to push forward in terms of a better internet infrastructure. Because it's
In
not
other
just
words, internet speed.
could be.
what everybody wants. Yeah.
And it's going to be it's going to be something that the government and the private sector should cooperate on, because it's not just one side. And I think him being a lawyer and having been in the telco space for quite a while, he knows both the technical and the legal framework that allows us to mature in the technology world. So I think in the next 100 days it'll be exciting. I know he's open to hearing people out, and he's always been collaborative. So it's going to be an exciting time for us with the DICT.
How much, I'm curious, how much can we improve, let's say in terms of internet speed, how much can we improve the speed purely through legislative means? I mean, because obviously you need infrastructure. At some point you always need to put more infrastructure for it to be faster. But what can we do right now, like tomorrow, next week, that could, maybe bump it up by a few megabits?
Well, I guess it's no longer a legal thing. It's more how the regulator, being the ICT right now, cooperate with the private sector in getting the speed up. Because it's also a business, and there are economics to it. And of course, it's just a matter of when do you get it done. And I guess when you get it done is when political will kicks in. I guess if everybody is using the internet right now and they're advocacy
clamoring for it.
better service,
Keep
my
hammering.
suggestion, keep hammering, keep engaging with the ICT, because the ICT soon, together with the NPC and the other agencies, are going to go into a lot of consultation hearings. Participate, let your voice be heard. Use social media to bring out your ideas, and maybe from a crowdsourced environment, we can get the right solution.
There are actually 29 permits for a single cell site to be erected. 29.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it takes a year for a
cell
single
site.
cell
Just
cell
one
site,
single
just
cell
one
site
single
somewhere.
cell.
Yeah.
So there must be a consultation with the, not just with the private sector, but also with public sector, LGUs. Because for instance, you need a barangay permit, you need a business
Yeah.
permit, you need
Yeah.
so many permits just to put up a single cell
Yeah.
site. So if the DICT can propose how to a way or mechanism for it
Streamline the
to
process.
streamline, to make it easier.
Make it maybe 5, 6.
Yeah.
How quickly do you think you could cut down at least the regulatory side of getting the permit? What's the realistic?
No, that's all
Yeah,
up
right.
to
It's
the
up
powers
to
that be right now.
experts now.
But I think if change is coming, I think they will move much faster than we might expect. I hope they do.
Change in broadband, hopefully.
Yep.
Let's move it down to the personal perspective. So this is how the government can help with data privacy. Firms obviously have to rein in some of their security protocols. What advice would you give to just the lay user, someone like myself? I mean, it's very hard to go through every single app and check and uncheck the boxes. Do you have any suggestions for?
Well, for one, don't download weird or
Questionable apps.
Questionable
Yeah.
apps. Like horoscope. I don't know.
Don't pirate apps.
Yes.
Don't pirate apps for
These
starters.
are the
Yeah.
applications that may be gathering your phone's
In the background.
information
Yeah.
without you being certainly knowledgeable about what kind of information they gather. And second is for you to implement two-factor authentication because or change your passwords every 3 months, things like that. Because in that way you can prevent identity theft.
Yeah.
If you are a credit card holder, you can subscribe your number to your credit card provider. So
Your mobile number.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Also
every time
two-step.
you purchase something online or anywhere, you get a mobile notification that you have this or that, or you can. There's also a one-time PIN, wherein if you purchase something online, a one-time PIN will go to your SMS, and then you put it in the transaction page, so it can be perfected. So there are actually technological means for you to be protected. You just have to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. And as individuals, start by respecting other people's information as well. Because right now, I tell my class, if you get your classmate's phone and for some reason you are able to hack the password and you see his call list, that's already 3 to 6 years in jail because you basically breach his
His
security,
privacy,
his
yeah.
privacy, and
To
you
check
can,
out who liked his photo on
yes,
Facebook.
and that's unauthorized access, unauthorized use. So also respect other people's information as well.
We forget that sometimes.
We
right?
do.
It's like incognito mode in Google.
Yeah.
Watch out for the ninjas behind you.
Yes. Yes.
How about password managers? What is your stand on? I'm just curious. 'Cause,
Password
yeah,
managers.
people seem to be split by that, because it's so hard to memorize
I know.
multiple passwords. So
Yeah.
you can have one password and
Yeah.
you can use that, but
Yeah.
that kind of centralizes
Yes,
everything.
yes.
So would you, I mean, just personally, I guess, would you recommend using a password manager or?
Well, because in that way you can be protected. And, I mean, it may be inconvenient for most people, but you'd rather sacrifice inconvenience than your identity protection or privacy invasion.
It'd be a lot more inconvenient for you
Yes.
in the
Yes.
long run.
Yeah.
I was just thinking. So the thing is, there's a lot of to kind of go full circle, I guess, to access a lot of services that have become essential in our life. Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter, Gmail, everything.
Yep.
They're essential, but they also do get your privacy.
Yes.
So you can always opt out.
Yes.
But if you opt out, and by opt out I mean not use the service, you will basically be disconnected. I mean, the world is moving to a connected world. So where do you think is the ideal, middle path, middle ground?
First, be aware that whatever you put out there gets to be there permanently. What's the tagline? Whatever is in Facebook stays in Facebook forever, right? The middle ground maybe comes from yourself. How much do you want to share? And if you're going to share, is it something that you really want to share? Because there's no taking back. There are also situations where this is going to be a topic of another book. What would be the right subscriber agreement in these apps? Because right now they're very hard to read.
I mean, they're very technical. They're
very technical. So what's the
ideal
art
agreement between the big firm and what would you say?
I'd say it has to be meeting of the minds. And meeting of the minds means the subscriber should be able to understand what he's getting into.
And not have to squint.
Not have to squint, and it's a contract of adhesion if you don't know what you're signing, but you just have to sign because you need a utility, right? So there has to be a balance. So I think that is something that we need still to study.
So there you have it, guys. Be careful what you post online. You can never get rid of it. Read as much as you can. Read the app permissions as much as you can, and do shift your passwords. And for the big firms out there, change is coming, as they've said. So make sure to have your security in order, have your house in order, and not to invade your privacy. But I hear it's somebody's special day.
It's my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. Thank you for having me.
And it's my parents' wedding anniversary today.
Oh,
Happy anniversary, Mom, Dad.
All right. Francesca and Henry, thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
and thanks.
Okay.